Hello, this is Stephanie Lindloff from Our Natural Wisdom, coming to you live with another short and sweet, soulful gardening with nature offering. So good to have you here. I'm just waiting for just a moment to see who might be hopping on. So glad that you found this and that you are able to enjoy the replay. And I'm just going to jump right in here. So the first thing that I would love to do is to just invite you to come into the present moment and breathe, okay? Just take some nice deep breaths. Connect with your heart. Connect with this space where you are in this moment. And trust that you've been guided to this transmission for a reason, that there is wisdom and healing to be found here. So we're just going to be spending a few minutes together today to really introduce you and allow you to experience more peace and calm and to hear your intuitive guidance more clearly as you are deepening your connection with nature and truly blessing Mother Earth as you do in your gardening. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today, the ways that you can bring healing texture into your garden. We are, as humans, we are intuitively drawn to patterns and textures in nature that are most healing to us. And you can experience this, you've seen this, and you've felt this. We may have never really named it explicitly, but it's so true. When you think about how often we are drawn to watch waves come up on the shore, or look at a field of grasses that's blowing gently and beautifully, or to reach out and touch moss on the ground or on a tree, or to touch tree bark and to experience that texture, that pattern. There's something about it that is so soothing to our nervous systems, and it can truly be a beautiful tool, a mindful and mystical tool to ease your anxiety and to find more peace, to find calm in the present moment. We are, and there's been many studies done by neurologists and psychologists about this. So if you're interested in the scientific reasoning behind why we are so calmed by repetitive patterns and textures in nature, there's a lot of information out there for you to delve into. But today I'm going to take it a slightly different, from a slightly different perspective, and that is that you have an intuitive guidance that is drawing you to connect with textures in nature that will bring you deep healing and deep peace. And what better place to do this than in your garden, so that you can imagine stepping right outside your door and stepping toward into a beautiful garden that you have created that is a soulful garden, a place where you find quick relaxation, a quick sense of calm. You are immediately guided to take some deep breaths and really just be in the moment and connect with these beautiful plants that you have growing in your garden. One way to create this for yourself is through intentionally creating and planting plants that create that repetitive texture throughout your garden space. This is it's really a key principle to naturalistic garden design, is having a repetitive texture of a plant that flows throughout your garden space. And this will also bring forth a lot of relaxation for you, because you'll be able to engage with this plant not only visually, but also through touch. And we all know that touching something that feels so good to us is a wonderful way to relax and to find ourselves within the present moment, to be able to come into presence, which we so deeply need these days. Coming into presence is so key to easing our anxiety and to being able to hear your intuitive guidance, to gain clarity, to have more clear thinking, so that you can go about your day with a greater sense a connection with your inner voice. It helps with your decision making, it helps in your relationships, and it helps in so many ways to have those moments, those sacred pause moments of peace in presence. So the whole concept of having a plant that flows through your garden as a repetitive texture is also called a matrix plant within garden design. And if we think of gardens as like a fruit cake, the matrix plants are the cake itself. It's the majority of your garden space actually is made up of matrix plants in a naturalistic garden design. And then the pieces of fruit and maybe nuts in the fruit cake are your more showy plants, the flowering plants, the ones that are taller, that are larger, that are more colorful, and that provide a lot of structure in your garden. But the matrix plants are really the underpinning of naturalistic garden design. And they are usually lower growing plants that have year-round appeal. They may not flower. They may be a type of foliage that doesn't have a really identifiable flower, but most of them do flower at some points in the growing season. Grasses flower, sedges flower, and other plants as well. And I'm going to be talking with you a little bit more about that because these plants they have a beautiful and important role in our ecosystem. When I talk about soulful gardening with nature, a key component of this is using plants that are native to your region. These are plants that have evolved over thousands of years with all of the aspects of nature that are found within your native ecosystem. So these are plants that are hardy, they are tolerant of the conditions in your garden, as long as they're planted in the correct place in terms of light and in terms of moisture conditions and soil conditions. But generally, native plants are so hardy and really thrive when they are given the opportunity. So using native plants as your matrix plant is really a beautiful option because it is not only going to bring healing to you through the various textures that our native plants provide, but also it will bring vital healing to the earth. It will heal the soil, the water quality. Pollinators love native plants, and wildlife of all types use native plants year-round for food, for structure, for all sorts of needs, for habitat, for shelter. So when you add native plants, native matrix plants, we can call them, to your garden, really what you're doing is you are putting them amongst all of the other plantings that you have. They essentially are acting as a ground cover, but it's beyond being a ground cover. They are providing what is known as a living mulch. And this is so important in gardening because it dramatically reduces the number of weeds that grow in your garden, and it creates a continuity throughout your garden so that as you're moving through your garden, you're not seeing plants that are in one spot and then another spot, but with a big empty space in between. It brings that flow, that beautiful sense of flow that is created by a repetitive pattern, a repetitive texture. And again, being able to connect with this in your garden space is such a healing place for you. It's a true sanctuary to create a soulful garden. So, a couple of other things about these plants, matrix plants. They are predominantly foliage plants, so they're green and of a variety of textures, of course, but they're green, and so they really make flowers pop. They really make the colors so beautiful in your garden to have that backdrop to look upon when you are connecting with your soulful garden. I will also say that matrix plants, as I mentioned earlier, they have year-round interest. So they are, in most cases, they have year-round interest. Some of them will die back late in the season, but most of them will remain throughout the winter months. And this is such a it's just such a nice thing to have in your garden in terms of having that structure, the visual appeal, and being able to continue connecting with their texture throughout the winter months. I will also say that they can have a wonderful sound associated with them in all times of year, but especially in the winter months, like when grasses dry and they remain standing through the winter months. And if you are outside on a day with a breeze, to be able to hear the sound of the grasses moving against each other, it is truly so calming and peaceful, and it really offers you a whole new way to experience the beauty and joy of your soulful garden. So you may be asking, well, this is great, Steph, but what plants will work in this matrix garden? What are some really good plant options? And I'm so glad you asked, because I have just created a brand new resource that provides you with more details about how to create a soulful garden using healing textures. And that resource includes 5 highly recommended native plants. Plants that are native to the United States, to almost all portions of the United States, are covered within this guide. So if you are, here's the first page, and then just to show you, there's a bunch of information provided on each of the plants, so you'll be able to really hone in and determine which plant works best in your conditions. And you'll also get a sense of the variety of textures that are available amongst these 5 native plants. Of course, there are so many more plants to choose from, but these are 5 plants that provide high quality benefits to the earth, and that will also provide you a range of textures to choose from when integrating healing textures in your soulful garden. So to obtain a copy of this free resource, all you have to do is click the link in bio and click the first button to access the page to request a copy yourself. And if you are already on my email list, you will be receiving a copy shortly through email. So I would love to hear from you what you thought of this, the idea of incorporating healing texture in your soulful garden. And if you have any questions about these specific plants that are on the guide, please feel free to reach out to me through either direct message on Instagram, or you can email me at stephanie@ournaturalwisdom.com. And I think that's it for today. So thank you so much for joining me. It was such a pleasure to share this with you, and I wish you happy gardening. Enjoy the day. Thank you. Bye-bye.